every day. Time no day, so every day. You see what happened today. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Curatorial-ly Speaking. I am your host, Oluwaseyo Olowoake, and today I am joined by an artist that I got to meet virtually last year in a conversation. His name is Pebofatso Mokoena. Pebo, how are you doing?
I'm doing super well. It's a pleasure to be here.
That's great. It's nice to talk to you too. We're having this conversation again after we had that conversation last year, and so I'm actually really excited for this because when I first saw Pebbo's work, it was part of a panel, right? It's part of an event, and they're like, "Oh yeah, this artist Pebofatso Mokoena," and I saw his work, and I was like, I need to talk to this person about all these different questions. I'm not going to say them now because obviously I'll be giving away all my questions. I'll ask them as time goes on, but these are the questions I really wanted to ask you since I discovered your work. So first, let's start light. Can you tell me a bit about yourself and your favorite food?
Okay, cool. So I'm gonna start with my with myself, and then my I feel like I'm going to be judged. So my name is Pebofatso Mokoena. I currently am 29 years old. I'm currently doing my MA/FA at WITS. And I'm a painter. So I work basically like in the triads of like painting, printmaking, and drawing. So so the drawing feeds the painting feeds the printmaking, etc. And the work is like preoccupied with like space. So the different ways of how we conceptualize space, how we divide space, how we are able to like read space on paper, like how architects think about space, plans, sections, elevations, etc. Politics, economics, geopolitics is very often tied to like space as well. So like what's in like spaces. So like mountains affect like military strategies, etc.
Yeah.
So with all of that in my brain, I like to feed my brain some salmon. I really like salmon.
Why salmon though?
I actually used to eat McDonald's with my grandfather like almost like every week. And I used to have like a really like kind of intense like sweet tooth when I was like really young. And then so as one gets older, one loses like a few teeth because of like the like sugar. So like I lost like my baby teeth because of that. And then I think the older I got, the more I was like, nah, I need to like just like get like healthier, like maintain like all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Calcium and like protein and like carbs and like all of that stuff. So I really like salmon now.
Okay, that's cool. That's a nice story to know. So let me ask you my first question, not related to salmon. How do you define your practice? You just talked a bit about like printmaking and like drawing and how everything and painting and how everything is talking to each other. But let me just ask again, like, how do you define your practice?
I mean, like that's like a very difficult one because I pull from like a lot of like reference points from a lot of disciplines, from like music as well. And like the thing is like my main interest really is about the compositions or like the multiple compositions of space. So and then just trying to find the most simplified way to visualize what's going on. Because like very often like these like ideas are like super like out there and like they're really like abstract. So I just want to like bring them back to like a very like fundamental like visual thing.
And it's like it is more of what you're trying to explore, like that space that you're talking about, but it doesn't necessarily, the medium for you comes, that's just like what's the English? it's like just a way for you to tell this, for you to explore this space and this. Oh, okay, that makes sense. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. That's interesting. We'll come to that, our space and everything. We'll come to that later, hopefully, in this conversation. But when I see your work, I think this guy is taking mark making to another level. Because I know when I was in like foundation, they were like, oh, mark making is a thing and they're teaching us to exploit. But when I see your work, I'm like, wow, there's like things that I will look on that drawing, for example, on your website, and on that drawing, I'm seeing like color. And when I think drawing, I think 2B, I think charcoal, I think, I think all these things, but that's not what I see in your work. You use a lot of different materials and like you've just been mentioning, and lots of different like methods. So have you always been interested in using those things? Has that always been your way of working? Or did it just come like maybe halfway into your career or something like that?
I think like, okay, it's quite, yeah, I think so. I think like one of the things, so when I was like really, really young, like I used to draw, I'm gonna get like, so when I was young, I used to draw on the walls of like the house. And like they were like the enamel walls. So like I used to draw with the wax crayons. And I was just like, kind of, like, apparently like when I was like super young, like I would just be drawing lines, right? And then like they realized this, then they got me like pen and paper. So like I just like kind of like had like a different feel for, like wax felt different to pen on paper. Then it was just like a really like beautiful way to like, I don't know, like I just had a kind of affinity for like materiality, like like how does this like material like respond, so like how would charcoal respond to enamel walls, for example, and like it worked, so it's like there's like a kind of this material somehow sits well on this material but not on this material, which kind of affects like composition, right? It's kind of like I remember like seeing like a bartender kind of explaining like how like they would have like those like multicolor like drinks, and then they were like, like you pour, I think like it's like the thickest liquid at the bottom, right, which makes like the less thicker liquid at the top sit, so it's like it's kind of like the same like principle. And then like with the color, I was just like, the color has like quite a different, like color has like quite a different frequency in the same way as like line, right? So like with like architects, as like, that there's like something called like line weights, right? So it's like so like a really like thin line feels different, right? And even in black and white, like it has like a different feel in color, funny enough, like it's so like maybe like if like you draw with like a blue clutch pencil, for example, right? And like you've got like a really like thin line weight versus like a black like mark, like the same thickness of mark with like black, like they feel different. So like I kind of began like I wanted to play more like with that. So like kind of about drawing and like mark making with the different kind of frequencies of mark. I sound like all of these things like sound like very like complicated like in my head.
No, it makes sense though, because like I'll go back. I'm going to go back to the color thing we were just talking about, but let me just quickly jump to space and then I'll come back to this. I think that there's a lot of deconstruction going on in your work, and maybe that's not the word that you might use, but for just me, my own like way of trying to interpret it, it's like there's a lot of deconstruction going on. So, and earlier you're just talking about space and how you're exploring those compositions. So maybe it's something that has to do with this space. What are you deconstructing? Do you think is it even a deconstruction? Is it even would you just say it's like a composition of space that you're not deconstructing anything? Is you that thinks it's deconstruction? It is a composition, not a deconstruction. Like you can tell me.
So it's quite strange because in like SA there's like 11 of the official languages, right? And then like everyone from like the world like comes to like Joburg or like SA with like a different language, right? So like one, so like what it's like there's not one language to speak, right? There's like many spoken languages that is. And like the way that people construct like that language linguistically also manifests visually, excuse me. And so like, because like essay is kind of like, I wouldn't call it like a patchwork of thing, like a patchwork of like languages or a patchwork of visualities, but like, because there's like so many like influences, like already, like I just feel like that the language of like assemblage or kind of collage is kind of like the real kind of impetus for like, because like a lot of people like move into like Joburg, go somewhere else, come back to Joburg, and they bring something new like every single time. Like people that design buildings, like different buildings, like different like languages, like the fashion, food, so it's like, so being in Joburg, I think like that's kind of like the real kind of impetus of this.
That's interesting. Assemblage and collage. When I also think collage or assemblage, I don't even think, because you see your drawings and your paintings, they're on one piece of paper, and these things, different colors and these different languages, they get put onto this, right? I've never really considered it as a collage, but that's very interesting. It is an assemblage. If you actually look at it, it makes sense. It makes sense. Okay. And so like going back to the language and everything, maybe this relates. When I look at your work as well, I feel like I can see sound. It feels like some kind of music score that I'm just waiting to interpret. And so when you talk about different line weights and, this color in green or in blue or in black, it feels different. It even reads different in your eyes. But like, so can you just talk to me more? Like, has music influenced your work in any way? And would you say that you see these lines in a sense as a kind of rhythm or?
So I really like the idea of like scores, like graphic scores, because like even like when like one makes a mark, it's like they make a mark in that moment and they feel like a particular way, and like that, and all of the happenings of the day or of the week are like they are in that like 1 or 100 or 1,000 or 1,000,000 marks, right? So like, and it's the same. So like, what's really funny is that I don't play any like instrument, but I really, really like listening to like the drums. Like this, like, because like it affects like, I was at a Mokumba concert in Harare like last week, and I was like listening to like the drums, and it was like the drums were like the vehicle, right? Like they were basically like the visual metaphor for like the composition in like a drawing. Like they are the things that set the tempo, and I was like, oh yeah, cool, of course. Like, like people like when people jam to like music, they like, what they're actually doing is that they're jamming to like the drum like rhythm. They're jamming to like the doom doom ch, doom doom ch, which is different to like doom doom doom, right? And like for me, like, thinking about that, like, I mean, because I also like really, really like listening to music like a lot. And I listen to like a range, like, I don't know, like Theory Corporation, Portishead, like Madlib, right? So like it's all of these things, like, just trying to figure out like composition. Like I really like putting myself in color conundrums too. So it's like, how can I put myself in a color conundrum and then solve it at the same time?
Oh, I see. Wow, that's very interesting. Pebo is in his own world and he's in his paintings. I like that. Like, that's very. I've not heard anybody talk about their work like that, or their relationship to their work, and like putting something down, solving something. But even when you talk about the rhythm, like the drums, like I can hear that there's a certain way that you hear this particular drum and it sets the pace for everything else. And it's not the same in another song. And it's like, when I see your paintings, I can almost read like, oh yeah, this is how the rhythm is going. And I can tell if it's slow paced, if it's fast paced, or like all these things are happening at the same time. Which I find very interesting. I've always been very intrigued about that. And I wonder if you would maybe make a sound element, like some kind of audio to kind of interpret this visual thing I'm seeing. So we're listening to it at the same time we're seeing your work. Have you ever thought about that? Have you ever considered?
Yes, I have. Like, I'm actually looking for, I'm actually looking for like bass players, like to play like an orchestra of like bass players, and like I just want to like manifest this thing.
Yeah.
Like people like around like the world, like like bass players just like come through and like interpret this work.
Yeah.
But yeah, like just like like bass players. So short answer is yes, I did. Like I have been thinking about it.
Yeah.
I'm looking to provide like bass players to play.
That's cool. I'll be down to listen to what that sounds like. I will.
Me too.
Okay. So speaking of colors,
Yeah.
you just talked about how blue was like the base. Have you ever found that when you try different other colors, they don't work? Or do other colors like have their own meaning, just like blue has that's like blue is the base? Like orange, green, like all the other colors you use, is there a meaning to them as well?
So at the moment, like blue is still like there's still something quite mystical about the color blue. I'm not really sure like what it is yet. But I think it's like the frequency, like it sets like the tone of the paintings. I recently made a work called Sensations, where like the kind of like majority color was orange. Excuse me, and then I think that was like really like the first time when I could use the color orange, because like I found like the same kind of intensity of orange like that I found it like in blue. So like I think it's it's an intensity thing.
Yeah.
Like there's a vibe there.
Okay. So blue and then orange, and then for the I guess smaller lines or like lines with thinner line weights, has that just been
Yes.
anything? Or and then talk to me through, something just popped into my head, sorry. So you know what, you talk about printmaking as well.
Oh.
Sometimes I see in your work you have this how will I call it? It's like there are lines and there's some like paintbrush, they seem to me, they might not be paintbrush strokes that just kind of go on the page, and then with black ink, they form like a semicircle or some kind of. How do you, are you making all these components in one go, or are you making some and then layering and then layering? How does that work?
Like I really like the idea of them being components, because I often feel like I'm not really like sometimes like I'm not painting, but I'm actually like constructing like things, scores or plans or narratives. But I think like yeah, those like swishes that go from like one end of the painting to the other end. Like I don't know, like I think I had like a revelation, because I started to see the like the edge of the canvas. Like I didn't see it as like the edge of the canvas, but I saw it as like the start of something else. So if it's on like a white wall, like it'll kind of like in the viewer, it'll like, or from the viewer, like it'll like kind of like go like off the painting like to the wall and then like continue, and then like if it's like public space, like it does something like different. So like that mark, like I'm still actually trying to figure out that mark, like what it's saying.
Yeah.
But I think like there's something quite powerful about like just being able to kind of like let go and then just like making that mark, like and then like it's, I don't know, something like final and like total about it. Like Zen. This is and like Zen pebble.
Yeah. Another idea, now with the sound, but then also it's been nice to like walk into a gallery and you just talk about the edge of the canvas. That is not quite the edge of the canvas. It's been nice to see those lines continue on the walls of the gallery. But I don't know how that will be, but like just like exploding in this room, right? Sorry, my imagination is just going. It's because you're giving me the ginger to be imagining on your behalf. So I think it will be an
No,
interesting thing, right?
yeah, that sounds amazing. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, that really sounds amazing. Yo, like, you see, like after this, like I'm gonna get a notepad, write this down. Like it'll be in the notepad, inspired by Oluwashayo. Like it's there, it's there.
Yes, let's go. That's what I'm here for. Oh my gosh, yes. And so let me go even back to, I think I want to move to Katoros, but I'm still going to talk about music in Katoros. I'm pronouncing
Yeah.
Katoros well, right? I know that I
Yes.
come across this work and I was thinking about this and I'm like, I can't ask a specific question. I don't think it's to do justice to what this whole work is. So my question instead is for you to talk me through, like, what was your inspiration for making this work? And then talk me through what the different things that you're exploring in this work. Because it seems like you're revisiting history, a very like certain history that is, peculiar to South Africa, right? And so, yeah, just talk me through it.
Yeah, so it's a very particular like moment. So okay, so I was born in 1993, right? My parents were like living in this township, still a township called Togoza. And it was kind of constructed like in like around like 1956 to like 1959 for like migrant laborers who would work like in the Johannesburg region, right? Um, Apparently like there was supposed to be an airport there, but I don't know like where that kind of ended up. But instead, like in that like where the airport was supposed to be, there were hostels that were built for like migrant populations, and then there were like residential houses that were like built, right? Like, but really quite small, like that kind of like there's a particular like housing typology that was like created like for like the township, right? But it was like four bedrooms, no kitchen. The bathroom was like outside. So it's like I think it's called the non-European, so NE 51-6, sorry, 51/6, and in NE 51-9. And like these houses like they're quite like they're really, really small, right? Um, and so basically what had happened between 1989 and like 1993 is that they were very kind of like deep um, uh, political kind of battles between like the IFP and the ANC at the time. So like what tended to happen was apparently it didn't start off analytical. So the people that were staying at the hostels were um Zulu speaking like workers that supported the IFP. And then on the other side, was an informal settlement called Polar Park, and they were mostly like ANC supporters, right? I think like POSA. So like apparently like it started through taxi violence, and then there was a kind of so like one taxi driver shot one, and then there were like retaliation kind of battles. Like it became like a kind of clan thing where it's like, okay, cool. So like the Zulus are like attacking Xhosas and vice versa. And then like it became like a really kind of like heavy political thing where people would like get like necklaced, like houses like would get torched. And so in between those two camps, my parents were living in a street called Sabota, which is like parallel to the main road that connected both of these like areas. And so they were basically like living in the middle of like this kind of like battlefield. And so because like I was quite young, like I didn't really know what was happening. My parents never really told me anything like about it. Because granted, like these are still kind of like dealing with the like effects. And then they were so I was just trying to kind of like reconstruct what was happening, but then also trying to like align it with like the way that I saw the township, because like I wasn't involved in the political warfare, right? Like I was watching Michael Schumacher,
Yeah.
Kimi Räikkönen. I was drawing like on the walls, and I was just like playing like on like a bicycle. I was watching like Eddie Guerrero, and like all of these, so it's like a wildly different thing. So like it's just like a project that tries to kind of reconcile the two and try to find some kind of historical connection. I mean, like, because it's also like not really like spoken about in the kind of like larger context of like South Africa's transition to a democratic state,
Yeah.
right? Because people just, like see it as like, okay, apartheid over
Yeah.
Rainbow Nation, but like it's like so much stuff that's like really kind of like happened like just before, like Cyril Ramaphosa was there, like a bunch of people like were there. There were like soccer games that were like hosted to end like the violence. It was just like insane. So for me, I really thought that I needed to understand this part of my parents' kind of history, like my parents' kind of memory, so that I could actually be able to kind of like to be able to transcend that, like kind of like use it as a kind of like therapy to then speak through it, and then to kind of like assist like where I can, like through like the arts, or through, like sharing skills, sharing like knowledges, like to those people, like so that like they are like two are like not stuck in this historical like moment.
Yeah. That's very, very interesting and very like detailed, and seeing again, going back to the components that I see again, like your paintings, but this time in this project is you had like different folders. So there was a Sunday playlist, there was like televisions. I think they're just different parts, these maps and everything. And so I guess I wanted to focus more on these different processes. Are there parts of this folders, these processes, these components that you have not included in what we see? Or is it that all your exploration is kind of put into these different folders? And why is it important for us to see, these different components as cartography? Because it's not one finished piece, it's all these things that make up this project, right?
Yeah. So I'm still like trying to like figure it out, but like if like we kind of think about like back to the idea of like the assemblage, like I often get a sense that like that the township is not really like consistently, like because people don't have a lot, like whatever they find, like they reuse it, but in like a very like clever way, right? So it's like it like so it's like like they can't afford like I don't know, like a bedroom suite that costs like 20,000 rand, right? But like, which was also quite funny because like the same companies like Joshua Doe, the JD Group, Ellerines, Bears, like they had this like weird scheme like where like they kind of had like aspirational furniture, so like very like baroque like furniture, and they sold it to black people, but like at like a very like high price, and then just like put them with like very like high interest rates, so that they could keep people like in the township, right? And it's like, and now it's like also it's not only like township, like there's a kind of language of like faux pas baroque, which is like the kind of thing about like baroque is that like it's from Italy, and like when you think of like the churches in the hood, yeah, like when you think about like the churches in the hood, like they're mostly kind of like from like that kind of Italian like church lineage, and it's like, oh, okay, cool. So it's not only, like there's a lot of like hands that have constructed the township, right? So it's like, for me, like it's just like figuring out a way of how to kind of figure out those languages and then tie those languages to like an art history, because I also sense that like art history, like there's a particular language or there's particular languages that people are engaged in, and they have like like they've like they're actually very particular to art history. So like that kind of, so like being able to draw out those relationships, and then obviously like they like it comes like place and time and all of that stuff. So yeah, like that's it's still ongoing, so I haven't really figured out like where it needs to end. Like hopefully someone can like take it over and just kind of run with it as well. And then like it kind of grows to like an organic thing where everyone can just contribute. I've been thinking about capitalist timelines and kind of like, you know, the idea that like, you know, like Monday to Friday, 6 to 6 is like people, you know, like take taxis, take trains to go to work. And they like, you know, so like there's a very particular thing where it's like work, like, you know, like work, you earn money like per week or per month.
Yeah.
And then like it's the opposite, like on the Saturday and Sunday, you know, so it's like perhaps like you might, you know, drink with like friends and stuff. And then on Sunday, like you would do this and then just like chill like with like your people, you know, preparing like for the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday up until Friday, you know. So like it's like it's a really funny thing because I think it kind of like it like they function together, but they don't function parallel to each other. They function like radically different. Because it's like work, and then it's like play, and it's like work, right? And
it's a
like
different kind of tone and rhythm, right?
Yeah. And it's like, and it's like, okay, cool. Like, let's forget about the work week and do something that's like completely like perpendicular to work. So that's how I kind of see it.
My last question before I let you go is, do you have any? I'm not asking you about someone. I want to know if you have any new projects that you're working on. Someone is getting so much bad rep in this one conversation. But anyway.
Because like this is like a safe spot. Like if you want to eat like something like it's fine. New projects. Okay, so there's a solo project that'll come through in like middle of the year, roughly in it's a painting show.
Wow.
So yeah, there'll be like lots of blue, lots of like orange, lots of like pink.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to like this one is under wraps, but I'm going to be working with I'm already working with a kind of retailer to share like a range. So it's under wraps now.
Okay.
But so it's it's gonna come out like sometime in April. So it's all good.
Oh, I see. Oh, congratulations. Congrats. It's amazing. It's exciting. Like solo show, the painting show. Wow, that's good. That's great. So like this is the point where I plug your IG. Everybody, thank you for watching. And Pebo, thank you for being here. But you can follow Pebo on IG at Pebofatso Mokoena Studio. And then check in the description box for his bio and a link to see his work, because all of this, as well as someone, will make sense when you actually see the website and when you see his work.
Yo, people are gonna be like, oh, so like this is the guy that eats salmon. I'm like, dude, like the paintings, bro, the paintings.
Oh, it was so good having you, Pebo. Like, it was so great talking to you. And everyone, like, check out his IG and look out for the next episode. So, bye.
Bye.
Them no say we come night and day. Sister pave the way, so I no hesitate. Brother tell me say, make I no come exclaim. Cause this G's today, yes this G's today.